Michelle Caruana, owner of Climbing Vines Cafe and Play and creator of Play Cafe Academy. And you know, we're wrapping up 2019, and in today's video, I want to give you guys kind of a year wrap up as we head into a new year, and I wanted to give you guys the answers to my 11 most frequently asked questions. So I dug through my email inbox, my YouTube channel comments, my Instagram, Facebook, and all of the questions inside of my group coaching program, Playmakers Society. And these are the 11 questions that come up again and again and again. I really tried to cut it down to 10, but I thought that these 11 questions were definitely the ones that I wanted to highlight today to give you guys one specific place to get all of these frequently asked questions answered. But before I get into answering the questions, I just want to remind you to please check out all of my free resources in the links below. I have an ebook, I have a bunch of free classes, I have a brand new free class coming up in January. There's a lot going on. So if you need more resources about opening a profitable indoor playground, don't forget to check the links below. All right, let's get started answering questions. All right, number one, how many customers do you get a day? And this is definitely by far the number one question that I get. If you guys have been following me on YouTube or Instagram for any amount of time, I get this question all the time. And it's a little bit tricky to answer actually because we're located in Western New York, so it's very, very cold in the winters here and very mild in the summer. So even though I typically answer this question with about 20 to 25 families per day as a typical day, that is pretty rare actually. So in the summer, we're a little bit slower. Our indoor play season, our busy indoor play season is probably from November all the way through May. And so we're a lot busier during those months where we can serve, you know, between 50 to 70 families every single day. But then in the summer, we're a little bit slower. So a typical day is more like 10 to 12 families. So even though I usually answer with 20 to 25 customers a day, that's because I'm averaging our busy months and our slower months. And that's usually about what we can expect in terms of like yearly revenue. So I always urge people when they ask this question to really look at their area and ask themselves if they have a consistent indoor play season or if they have, like us, mild summers and cold winters, or a lot of times in the South, summer is the indoor play season because it gets so hot and it's hard for little ones to be out in 100 plus degrees. So this business is very seasonal in most areas. So again, while I say 20 to 25 families is a typical day, I do want you to consider the seasonality of the indoor play season. And maybe it doesn't affect you, but depending on where you live, it probably does. All right, number two, why don't you serve a full menu? And this is another question that I get a lot, not only from people looking to open an indoor playground, but also from customers. So I'll give you guys the answer that I give to other business owners because it's really a business decision. So while we really want to be the one-stop shop for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, ideally, it just wasn't in the business model for us. So we're a pretty small indoor playground, so we are 2,500 square feet, and our kitchen is, you know, we don't have a lot of room for a full stove, all that stuff in oven. We don't have that kind of room, unfortunately, in our facility. And given the chance, I wouldn't add one. You know, when we opened our second location, we chose again to not have a full kitchen. And I like the way this business model operates because it is much lower overhead for us. So not only are we not having to purchase that equipment or have the extra space for a full kitchen, but we also don't need to employ extra staff to operate a full cafe menu. We have a lot of indoor playgrounds in our area that do serve a full menu, and they're required to have 2, 3, 4 staff members on all the time just to make sure that they can get those cafe orders and prepared in a timely manner. So for us, I really just didn't want the extra overhead. And then also I've noticed that when people serve a full menu, and you know, we did used to have sandwiches and soups and things like that brought in by a local bakery, but we actually stopped doing it because I was noticing that people were spending all day at our facility. So in the winter, people would come at 9 a.m. right when we opened, and then they would stay all the way through lunch. They would get a sandwich and soup, and then they would stay a couple hours after lunch. And while this is great, it was really hard on us for 2 reasons. Number one, we really rely on turnover during those busier months. So as I mentioned, we can serve between 50 and 70 families on a typical winter day or during like a spring break, winter break type of day. And if people are staying all day and our play area capacity is only between 20 and 25 children, then that maxes us out at only being able to serve between 20 and 25 families a day. So because we don't offer a full menu, a lot of people will only stay for a couple hours and then go home at lunch and have lunch at home. And that works out a lot better for us, not only because we're able to serve more families every single day, but just because of the age of the children that we serve. Being out and about for an entire day is really, really hard for a baby or a toddler. And I noticed that, again, when we served a full menu, parents were really pushing it, and it made the children more unhappy. It caused a lot of tantrums. The longer we saw families staying, the more we saw the children's, behavior and type of play kind of deteriorate. And as a parent, I completely understand, wanting to get your money's worth out of a play pass, but once we stopped serving, sandwiches and soups and things like that, we saw people not only leave a little bit sooner, so they weren't staying quite as long, but children were leaving happier. People were buying more memberships so that they could come more frequently, but for less time per day. And everyone was just happier. We really haven't had a lot of pushback at all because we do allow outside food. So we do allow people to bring in outside food, although it is pretty rare. People will often bring in like snacks or things like that, but we don't very often have somebody bring in like an entire full meal. But that is why we do not serve a full menu. So it's mainly a business decision in terms of, we want to have, we want to make sure that we're able to serve a decent amount of customers per day. And again, if people are staying all day, we're not able to. And also it keeps our overhead low in terms of equipment and staff. All right, the third question is, how big is our location? So I already mentioned this earlier in the video, so I'm not gonna get too far into it, but I am in the Victor location right now, and this location is 2,500 square feet. And then our licensed location, which is in Chi-Lay, New York, that is about 1,000 square feet bigger because they do have an extra party room where they do birthday parties, classes, and all sorts of events during open play hours. So our play area is about 1,000 square feet and very similar in Chi-Lay. So both Victor and Chi-Lay have about 1,000 square feet reserved for play, and to me that's absolutely perfect for the age range. I might make it a little bit bigger if I were to do it again, but I really love the intimate, cozy nature of our space. It really allows parents to actually relax and enjoy a cup of coffee and a conversation without having to chase their children around the entire time. All right, number 4, what order should I go in when I'm planning to open? This is another question that I'm not gonna have time to answer in its entirety, but this is exactly why I created Play Cafe Academy, because it is a very complicated process. So I actually have all of the modules laid out in that course. You can find out more information at playcafeacademy.com, but I have it laid out such that you start at module 1, you end at module 10, and you fill out your workbook along the way. And by the time you're done with the content, you know exactly what steps you need to take in order to not only open, but open a successful, profitable indoor playground. And I created this course because there is so much confusion around the process, and I hate seeing these places pop up and then close within the first year because they skipped a step, or maybe they rushed through a step, maybe they signed the wrong lease, maybe they chose the wrong location, maybe they didn't design their space for profitability, maybe they didn't train their staff right. There are so many things that can go wrong in this equation. So that is exactly why I created Play Cafe Academy. But just to answer this question in kind of a broad sense, for those of you who are not members of Play Cafe Academy, the number one thing I recommend starting with is your business plan. So I linked to our business plan template in the comments or in the description of this video, so please feel free to check that out. But that is a really good way to not only wrap your head around what things you're going to need to research, including average rent in your area, the startup costs for like contractors in your area, because it differs wildly in the US, but also overseas. There is a lot of variation in terms of those types of costs, but also what type of business you want to open, what competition are you facing, what do you want to offer in your community in terms of, what ages do you want to serve, how big do you want your space to be. These are all questions that you're going to answer when you create your business plan. So that to me is the number one first step. And then after that, I usually suggest that people start sort of engaging with banks, investors, and other ways to get funding, because if you start calling around for average prices for rent in your area, you're gonna figure out pretty quickly that landlords and things like that in your area, they're not going to produce a lease for you to review until they see some sort of proof of funding or letter of intent from a bank that they are intending to give you a loan. So I always recommend just kind of starting a conversation with some local banks or investors in your area, or talking to family and friends, taking a deep look at your own personal finances and really figuring out the funding picture, because everything kind of depends on that funding, and you're not going to be able to, again, move forward with finding a location until you get that piece figured out. So again, to wrap up, business plan first, start thinking about funding second, and then you can start kind of scoping out locations. So again, there's obviously so much more to that question, and you can get all of your answers at playcafeacademy.com. All right, number 5, how many employees do you have, and do you have a supervisor? So this is actually the same as when we opened. We currently have 6 employees. We also started with 6 employees. They are not the same employees, however, but we find that 6 is a really good number for us. We generally have a staff that works during the week and then a staff that works on the weekends for parties. And even though that's the case, all of our employees are cross-trained, so if anybody is on vacation or calls in sick, we do have many employees to kind of step into any role. And then we also do have a supervisor. She's been with us for 2 years. And we didn't have a supervisor to start with. I waited about 6 months, and I probably, if I could go back, I would probably hire a supervisor closer to maybe the 3-month mark, because 3 months would have given me enough time to kind of get my foundation as the owner, start establishing and documenting our processes, and really figuring out where there were gaps and where I needed more support. So I waited a little bit too long. I think I would have maybe gone back to that 3-month mark. But it's pretty expensive to hire a supervisor when you're first getting started, and it can also be very stressful as a startup business. So, when you're still figuring out, how to run your own business, it's hard to have a supervisor kind of chiming in and offering opinions and things like that. So I think waiting a couple months, but not too long, not until you get completely burned out and overwhelmed, is a really good idea. All right, next question. This is number 6, if you're keeping track. Do you have an employee monitor the play area? We did when we first opened. So we used to have an employee kind of stand probably right actually behind me. They would kind of stand and make sure that everybody was abiding by the rules, everyone was playing correctly, and things like that. And not only did it cost us a ton of money to have somebody just stand there, but it was also pretty awkward because parents weren't sure if they were supposed to step in and discipline or confront a parent if there was some sort of issue, or if they should leave it up to our staff. And similarly, our staff member didn't really know what her role was. She didn't know if she was supposed to step in or if the parents were. It was very awkward, and it was a bad experience for our staff member, and it was a bad experience for our customers. And it kind of gave customers the notion that they could kind of chill out and zone out on their phone or on their computer and not watch their child. And for us, that is just not the case. It didn't really work out. We had a lot of issues, a lot of children fighting, a lot of parents, again, not really supervising. And we are not a daycare, we are not a drop-off facility. So once we removed that employee from the play area, it not only reduced our payroll by a lot, but it also let parents know that, hey, you're responsible for making sure that your child follows the rules. And it made parents a lot more attentive, which gave everybody a much better experience. So if you are, a much bigger space, you might need to have somebody kind of walking around, tidying up all the time. But I found that with even one staff member here, they have enough, 10-15 minute gaps in their day to be able to walk in the play area and just make sure everything is operating correctly, make sure that they just tidy up real quickly, and we haven't had an issue. So we made that change pretty quickly, probably a couple months in, and we have had no complaints since. So that's just my opinion. All right, number 7, why do you have limited weekend hours? So this goes back to our business focus. I created an entire video about this, but our business, even though we're open 6 days a week for open play, we're open Saturday mornings, that's our only weekend open play hours, we are 100% focused on birthday parties. So birthday parties are our revenue generator. It is the main driver in our business success. And as long as we have a full birthday calendar, we are all set. Everything that comes in through open play is really just gravy. So I love having that, I love looking at the calendar and saying, okay, we have 6 birthday parties this weekend. Our bills are gonna get paid. that is just so comforting to me as a business owner. And just because of the nature of our space, we're really able to provide a premier private birthday party experience. So we focus on birthday parties, and for that reason, we only open Saturday morning for open play. It's actually Saturday morning right now as I'm recording this, and it's pretty early in the morning. No one's come in yet, but I just make it known, and I'm very transparent. I let people know that, hey, we do birthday parties on the weekends, and it is what it is. And one of the questions that I get a lot is, if I get a lot of pushback from customers about that. And my answer is no, and again, that's because I am completely open and transparent. So when we sell memberships, when we sell packs of play passes, everywhere you find us online, we're very open that we are only open on Saturday morning in terms of the weekend. So people know when they're purchasing a membership or pack of play passes that they're not going to be able to visit us unless it's a Saturday morning on the weekend. So it's all about communication and being upfront about your hours. All right, number 8, how do you handle older siblings? This is a tricky one. This one comes up a lot, and it's very tricky for both during open play and during birthday parties. So a lot of times, an 8, 9, 10-year-old will want to go in the play area during a birthday party or open play. And my answer is that, if you're going to be helping a younger child in the play area, that's absolutely fine, but we do not allow older children on any of our equipment. So slides, our push toys, anything like that, because there's really no way for like an 8, 9, 10-year-old to use any of that equipment as it's intended. So again, I am very upfront. I let people know that, hey, if you have an older child that's going to be joining you for either a birthday party or open play, please bring activities for them to do while you're here, or make sure that they're just helping a younger child in the area and that they're not using any of the equipment, because it is going to cause it to break, and it's going to cause you a lot of stress, and it's going to cost you a lot of money as a business owner. So we're very, very strict about that rule. And luckily we can see our play area from the counter, so it's very easy to see if one of the older children is not abiding by the rules, and we just kind of tap them on the shoulder or tap the parent on the shoulder depending on the age of the child and say, hey, I'm so sorry, but if you use that piece of equipment again, or if you use our equipment again, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the play area. So we do have like board games and coloring books and things like that for older children to use, but again, we try to communicate as effectively as possible on our website that if you have an older child coming, to please bring some activity for them to do, because we're not going to allow them to play. All right, so number 9, do you do one-on-one consulting? I have done a video about this before, but I still get this question all the time, and the answer is no, I do not do one-on-one consulting anymore. And the reason that is because I and typical consultants will charge between $125 and $200 an hour for consulting services. And I was really finding after I did a couple consultations that everybody was asking the same questions, and also that even after a couple hours of talking to someone, I was not even putting a dent into the amount of information that I needed to relay to them in order for them to have a real chance at a profitable indoor playground business. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to spend 16 to 20 hours with this person and have them spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on my consulting services. I knew that just wasn't going to be realistic for somebody just getting started in this journey. So that's how Play Cafe Academy was actually born. I took all of the information that I wanted to relay to prospective indoor playground owners, questions and answers and checklists and documents and all sorts of stuff that I would have killed for when I was getting started in this business. And again, I'm not saying that I've done everything perfect on this journey. In fact, a lot of the course is shaped around learning from my mistakes and helping Play Cafe Academy members actually avoid a lot of the mistakes that I made altogether. So that's why I created Play Cafe Academy, because I really don't feel like one-on-one consulting is as effective as this sort of organized 10-module courses. And there's a workbook that goes along with the course as well. So I have it organized, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I have it organized such that you start with lesson 1 and then you end at the end of module 10, and then you have everything that you need in order to start a successful indoor playground business. And then for people that want a little bit more support, I also have my group coaching program. So I'm still working with people, I'm still answering questions, I'm still doing coaching calls. I just do it in a group capacity. There's over 100 people in there right now. So I love that I'm able to help a lot more people than I was previously able to with one-on-one consulting. and that is called Playmaker Society. And again, it's an optional upgrade, only available to people that have taken my Play Cafe Academy course. So no, I do not do one-on-one consulting anymore, just because I feel like I would be doing a disservice to anybody that wants to enter this business, because again, I need at least 20 to 24 hours of consulting time with someone to give them all of the information I need. So that's exactly all of the information that I put into Play Cafe Academy. And again, just go to playcafeacademy.com/programs and you can get all of my different paid and free resources all in one place. You can check them all out and see which one is right for you. All right, number 10, what role does your spouse play in this business? This is a really common question that I get, and it's different now than when we first started. So when we first got started, he played a much more active role. He went to a lot of the meetings with me. He made a lot of the space planning decisions with me, a lot of the stuff that we had to talk about establishing revenue and things like that. He really was integral in the startup process, but then once we were open for a couple months, he really didn't support the business other than, I think he sent over payroll for the first year or so, and now I do that. But he works full time, so it was really important for us to kind of have that separation. When we were working full time together, which we did for a couple years, he actually left his job and we worked full time together for a while, and we found that it was really detrimental to our marriage. We didn't love working together all the time. It was causing rifts between us, it was causing fights and arguments, and it was also really hard for us to kind of separate work time and family time. So we made a personal decision about a year ago to kind of, that he would do his own thing and that I would run my businesses by myself. We do still do a lot of work together in terms of our online business, but for the physical brick and mortar location, it's just me. I run the show. He, of course, supports me if I need help, and he watches the kids while I'm working or doing a party or something like that, of course. But we found that we, butt heads a little bit, and we weren't very good business partners. And sorry if that was a little too honest, but it's just the way it worked out, and I probably couldn't have anticipated it, but it is what it is. And the good news is that when you own your business, you are the boss, so you're able to make those pivots and changes based on how your relationships and your marriage ends up being affected by this journey. So, little tip. Okay, the last question, number 11. How much can you expect to make in this business? Now, this is a really tricky question, but I end up getting it commented a lot on my YouTube videos and blogs and things like that. So I just want to address it. And first, I want to give you a little bit more honesty. Owning an indoor playground business is definitely a very difficult way to make, not a whole lot of money. Now, that's not saying that you can't provide a very comfortable living for your family, even if you guys are both working on the business full time, and by you guys, I mean you and your spouse. You can definitely make a very comfortable living, but don't forget, this is a brick and mortar business. You are gonna have to pay rent regardless of whether or not you're working. There is going to be a lot of, physical aspects. Someone's gonna have to be here. It doesn't necessarily have to be you guys. You can, of course, hire a team. But it is definitely a more difficult business than to be in. For an online business, you can kind of take a break, take a step back. You can pivot a lot easier. It's very easy to change a website or something like that, but you can't always make those changes to a physical location. So you really have to get everything right the first time. And again, it is going to be a difficult business. I'm not going to lie about that. However, having said all that and having dished out my honesty, I can't tell you how much of a gift this business has been to my family and I for the last almost 5 years. We have grown so much together. I have been able to spend all day, every day, pretty much with my kids. When we first opened, my 5-year-old was just a little baby, and now he's about to be going to kindergarten. And I got pregnant while I was in my first year of business ownership with my second son, Silas, and now he's 3. So being able to go through that process and being able to not miss a single moment with them has been absolutely, again, the biggest gift to our family, and really no amount of money could replace that for me. I am so thankful that I left my corporate job and dove into this business. Now, I was making really good money at my corporate job, and I'm not going to lie, I haven't fully replaced that income, or at least I didn't for a couple years. But again, I was able to save on daycare costs. I'm with my kids full time. They really don't go, they don't have a babysitter or anything like that. They do go to a Montessori school a couple of hours a week, but that's because I want to enrich their learning. It's not because I have to leave them to go to a desk job or something like that. So you can definitely make a comfortable income with this business, but you just, again, have to get everything right the first time, which is why I created Play Cafe Academy. I see so many families pour their life savings into this business, and then they have to close within a year and maybe file for bankruptcy. And to me, that is a worst case scenario. And again, it's all about growing together as a family, and I also love what we've been able to give our community. So not only have we been able to provide a safe, clean, imaginative space for our local children to play, but I also have 6 employees, and I help them put food on their table. I help them support their families, and to me, that is the absolute, again, greatest gift. I love supporting my fellow local moms. We have a lot of moms on staff. I love being able to spend time with my family. So to me, even though we are able to make a comfortable income from it, that's really not what it's about for me. I know that I'm gonna be looking back on these last 5 years and really just cherish every single moment, even the hard stuff, even the nitty-gritty stuff. And to me, that is priceless. And I know that I'm gonna be able to go back to work someday if I want, or stay home. When I, maybe don't have this business anymore, maybe I'm gonna pass the torch to another local family. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but again, when I look back at these 5 years, there is no amount of money that could replace how close I've grown with my children. And I know that when they get older, they're going to look back at all of these moments and feel the exact same way. So those were the 11 most common questions that I get through all of my social media channels and my blog and things like that. So if you have any additional questions or topics that you want me to cover on this channel, please feel free to comment below. I would love to hear your suggestions. Have a great day, guys.